Hello, this is Alex from TrainerDay. I'm going to show you how the Coach Jack Plan Builder will build you a cycling training plan that will help you get faster, that will meet your needs, that will fit within your time constraints. First, Jack will recommend you a plan, but then you can tweak it as much as you want, right? All within the constraints of his rules. So I'm going to click here on Create a Plan. I'm going to skip analyzing Strava. Strava goes a little bit deeper into what's the perfect plan. I answer my questions, do I have a date or not? If you do not have a date, it will you'll just do a single block, a period of time that you have a single focus. So that could be a base period or a build period. Anyway, so I'll say I don't have a date just for simplistic. And then you pick the number of weeks you want your block to be. What's your biggest goal? Get faster. Any injuries? No. How many hours do you sleep a night? I like to feel easy polarized zone 2. What's the average number of hours that you sleep, that you've been training lately? 4 to 6. It asks me that because I don't have Strava. Okay, and it creates me a plan here. So this is just the recommended plan, but you know what you like a little bit more. You know some of your styles. You know what's resonating with you. A lot of training is actually just doing what you like, right? If you enjoy it, if it keeps you more consistent, that's gonna drive better performance overall. If it increases your consistency and usually your enjoyment. So I'll pick one. I'll pick the Serious Italian. That's my favorite for a build period. Choose my days. I'm not going to split my indoor long rides. I'm just going to do outdoor long rides. And your ramp rate is how kind of quickly or intensely your hours build up over time. Now, generally, if you want to improve, you do two things. You are consistent and you slowly progress. And then, we increase 3 weeks and then drop down a week, and then increase 3 weeks and drop down a week. So that's the typical, what's called a 3-1 pattern, and that's what I have here, recovery weeks of the 3-1 pattern. If I change that to 2, it would go up 2 and come down 1 and go up 2 and come down 1. The other thing you can do here is you can customize your daily limits. Now, customizing your daily limits limits the ability of this plan builder to give you the optimum plan. Right? So it's trying to balance kind of this training load over time and this ramp rate so that you end up doing something that gives you, there's this concept of training stress balance. And when you train too much for too long, you kind of dig a hole and you need to let yourself back out of that hole and get some recovery and get okay. So this ramp rate and controls that, and the steeper the ramp rate, the more you're increasing each week, and so it gets more risky. So we change the color to orange if it's 5, right? And you'll just see your hours are increasing, and generally it's better to increase your hours slowly and maybe your intensity a little bit, but you shouldn't try to manipulate all of your training stress through intensity alone. That ends up driving the behavior that you are always doing kind of specific workouts, let's even say sweet spot workouts, just because they're the best at maximizing TSS, but that isn't the best at giving you the best performance. That isn't the best at having the most enjoyment. I mean, for some people it might be, but so in order to have the best plan, meaning a diversified set of workouts with different physiological adaptations. An SFR workout like we have here is great for strength endurance. Threshold is good for kind of pushing yourself at that long duration, high intensity or medium duration, let's just say that 40-minute to hour duration, it gets you good at, really targeting that. And and then your long ride is just your ultimate kind of aerobic fitness ride. And so these three workouts together, represent a good balance of different kinds of training that give you different kinds of training stress. And so we try to do that with each of our plans, is to mix in some different kinds of training stress. Some, exceptions to that are something like a base plan that, maybe only has mostly base work, meaning like zone 2, and and just like one workout that's, more targeted towards intensity or something like that, or just only zone 2. So I can increase that, and you'll see that my hours just keep going. So I'm going from 5 to 10, 9.5 here. 5 to 10. So, anyway, so that's my ramp rate. And your start hours for the block is kind of where you're at now, right? Or where you've been lately. So where do we start out? We start out pretty much where we're at, and we start building from there. And that building process is, again, the combination of consistency and building up hours and a little bit in intensity is what drives performance, right? Doing a mixture of different workouts that have progressive overload built in, so that the workout this week might be easy, next week's a little harder, and by 16 weeks they're getting pretty hard, right? You don't need to start at, I'm going to kill myself today, and in 16 weeks you're still killing yourself at almost the same level, right? There's no progressive overload. And it's, even though you're starting out easy today, your body, and you just increase it a little bit, that actually that causes the adaptation. So that little, even it's easy, you're causing some adaptation. Now, if you've been doing a lot of really hard work lately, and you're doing really hard, long threshold work, and you drop back down, then you're not going to have any immediate effects, any immediate benefit, right? You could hold on to what you have, or mostly hold on, and then potentially reach a new higher peak at the end, or ideally, if you've just done a base period, which is usually recommended before a build period, then your adaptation, to this gradual progressive overload works. So that's what you see here. So you see, 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then a recovery week. SFR is not taxing enough that it needs a real recovery, so we just drop in one recovery ride here. And, we always recommend a long ride pretty much for just about anybody. If you were, a real sprint racer, then during your last, blocks of right before your main races, you might not be doing some long rides. But just about every cyclist can benefit from long rides. So that's when I chose a specific set of blocks. I can also then go in and modify that and pick an event date. But first I'll go ahead and show you some other features here real quick. So one of them is this intensity interval, the intensity, starting interval intensity. The coach that helped me design this, Andrea Morelli, he's been a pro coach for a long time, and he starts his pro athletes at level 1. So these are equivalent to what pros are doing after a base period and when they're starting out. Now, granted, their power is a lot higher, and for them doing, zone 2 workouts are hard because their power is so high, right? So it's a little bit different, but in general, we recommend starting towards the bottom end of this intensity level, and really for most people starting at level 1. And some people are just really want intensity right now. They've been doing a lot of intensity. They're ready to go for more intensity. So then you can boost it up to level 10. Now, our core recommended blocks and our core recommended block types are not super intense. We don't believe super intense is required for, it needs to get pretty intense right before a peak period right before a race, your main race series. It needs to get pretty hard there. But you don't, our belief is that in general, you don't need to be doing 2x20 threshold workouts and super hard workouts. Now, we do allow users want their own, they have their style that they like. They like really hard. So you can come in here and create a custom block with sweet spot hard. Those are really, long duration blocks of sweet spot workouts. You can do threshold hard. You can do VO2 max crunched is going to give you some tough VO2 max or some condensed VO2 max workouts, but we'll just take a threshold hard and choose that. And you can choose your 3 main workouts of the week. Again, we always recommend a Z2, Z3 outside. That's just a beautiful workout. And that's just going on a ride. That's kind of riding naturally, maybe pushing it a little on the hills, right? Getting a bit of intensity. And then, it's starting out at 1 hour a week, building 15 minutes each week or a half hour, and just slowly building up that long ride over a period of time is really going to do a lot for you. So, and you don't need to follow the workout that's in here, right? You can look at roughly the intensity, the Z2, Z3 intensity, and see where it's at, and kind of just go out and ride your bike and try to target something similar, and that's good enough. So here I've now got that threshold block, and if I crank that up to level 10, I now am starting out with, 3-minute intervals of at threshold, right? And there's 8 of them, so that's 24 minutes of threshold. It is definitely not easy. It's easier than 2x20 significantly, but it's still not easy. And that workout, that progression will progress to later harder blocks of 10-minute duration. 4 10s, right, is getting pretty brutal. So it progresses harder. And one of the things you can always do is, so you can take and make a 16-week block, look at the last weeks, look at the last weeks. Say you've got a 4x10 here. I think we've even got the thresholds are almost even harder, but let's just say we've got a 4x10 here in these last weeks. You can always just pick a specific month in here, and you can push it to or you can push the whole thing to my plans, and then you can kind of cherry pick or hand pick individual weeks from my plans and send them to your calendar. So you can execute those, whether that's in Zwift and Training Peaks or whatever, or you can send them to our calendar and use it inside of our app. Yeah, so then the kind of the last main feature of the plan builder here is this ride feel. So I chose mostly easy, zone 2. The other things I can do is I can do slope mode for secondary work. And so what that does is while you're pedaling, it switches from ERG to slope. And then in slope, really, it's probably best to focus on heart rate and look at your heart rate. Slope, you get to control the intensity through your pedaling, through your gearing, and get it at a gear and get it at an intensity that you're below your kind of threshold zone 2 heart rate, or, so somewhere around 65% of power, or somewhere around, could be 70% of heart rate somewhere, but in generally it's below those. And so you can read and find out how to find your best threshold heart rate. But really this is designed to give more of that solid polarized, training, and follow kind of that Mafton style, or that, that pure aerobic style. And then the other thing you can do is you can put the main work intensity at the end. So that actually moves your zone 2 to the beginning and your harder workout towards the end. And so what that does is it gives you this period of, because what happens is when you're training, you if you start with your hard work at the beginning, your heart rate jumps up, and then trying to get it back to that aerobic zone and trying to get your body back into a fat burning position doesn't work very well. You're a lot less likely to go into a fat burning state as if you put that secondary work at the end, right? So putting that, that lower intensity work at the beginning, it puts you in that fat burning zone for a long time, right? And you're always burning a portion of fat and a portion of, let's say, glycogen, but it puts just more of that. You have a higher ratio of fat burning and teach your body better fat burning skills by putting that real low intensity at the beginning and just kind of riding for, and then doing your hard work at the end. So that's kind of the purpose of that. And then each of these just makes it harder and harder and harder. And when you go to this last option, and you combine that with some really hard work, you can really create as hard as you want, but way harder than we would ever recommend. Funny. Okay, so we got our plan here. Now you have two options here. You can send it to your calendar. So it says here, but we have a unique feature that you can send it to your calendar, and if you sync it with Training Peaks, then you can go back and come back into this editor and change this editor. Let's just say you start out the plan, you decide, oh my gosh, it's too hard, or oh my gosh, it's too easy, or I don't like, I picked a fitness plan, or I picked something, and I just want to change my plan. So rather than modifying everything, you can just come back and edit this and sync it back to your calendar again, and it will just update Training Peaks, and it will go to Zwift or Ruby or Full Gas or whatever you want, or our app, right? So the other thing is the calendar does connect to our app, right? So if you like a calendar approach, you really want to follow it, Mondays I'm going to do this, Tuesdays I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to really miss days that much. I'm really going to probably hit most of my target days. Then using a calendar is great. But if you are the type of person that's busy, you get distracted, you don't end up training on the days that you want, and you're using our app, you might want to send it to My Plans, because My Plans allows you to do a sequence of workouts. So really there's no difference whether you have a plan that's on a calendar in specific days, or you're just doing a sequence of workouts as you have time. There's not much difference. As long as you're getting a reasonable recovery, there's not really much difference between the two. It's just that this one's a lot more flexible. You can, you show up, you do your workout, the next time you show up, you do your next workout, you show up, you do your next workout. So sending to My Plans gives you that option. The other thing that sending to My Plans does is it allows you to download this plan. It allows you to, send it the whole plan to Training Peaks or Intervals ICU if you want, or to Garmin. So if you want to really manage your calendar in another application, you might want to send it to My Plans and then send it from My Plans to that final destination, or download it and get it in that final destination. Yeah, and then once you send it to your plan, it's kind of like a plan, and it's a reusable plan. Like, I used it this year, now I want to use it next year, right? I'm just going to I'm going to use that plan. If it works well, I'm going to use it over and over again, or I'm going to modify it from one year to the next. Anyway, so if you send it to My Plans, it's kind of a reusable plan. You can send it to your calendar anytime you want. The disadvantage is if you are using our app, or if you plan to come back and edit in Coach Jack in this UI where you've got all these sliders and choices, once you send it to My Plans, it's kind of final. You've got to create a whole new plan if you want to start something new, right? So if you want something that you can go back and edit, and you want it to kind of just continue on from where the intensity level that you were at, and all the different things, and just kind of continue on, and you do want a calendar approach, then it's definitely better to send it to My Calendar. And the other thing is it's going to start on next Monday by default. This is like a Monday through Sunday plan all the time. And so, it's going to send it to next Monday by default, but you can change that to whatever you want. Or you can just save it as a draft and come back later and use it. So I already have a plan on my calendar, so let's just say I'm sure, or at least I'm pretty sure I do. Let's just come here. So I have a plan on my calendar. Some of the different things, you can send multiple plans to your calendar. So you can have overlapping plans. You could pick a 1 day a week plan and then send another plan that's another 1 day a week plan. So you can have a bunch of simultaneous plans to come up with some really creative options as to how you are going to work that, right? So, or how you're going to use that. And then you can see each of the plans here, and you can see the start date. You can click here, you can go back and edit the originals. So if I go back there, then I can go back and edit my original plan. So rather than, going into my calendar, moving, let's just say all of a sudden, oh, my work changed and I need to change my plan, and I can't work Thursdays anymore, right? Or what let's just say I can't train on Wednesdays anymore. So I'm going to change Wednesday for Thursday. I'm going to get rid of Wednesdays and Thursdays. So rather than moving my individual calendar days, I can just come in here. It just moved everything to Thursdays, right? It just moved my Wednesdays to Thursdays. And now I can send it and it will update my calendar without me having to tweak every workout in there, right? So it's a great benefit. Now these particular days right here are already completed, right? These weeks have already gone by. This was associated with a start date of 12/12. This was a plan, let's say I theoretically started on 12/12. And so those days are gone by, and that's why they're grayed out. You can if you enable Wahoo, you can download your plan from here as plan files that you can send to Wahoo. You've got your plans here, and you've also got my plans here. So these are Jack plans and the Jack editor and Coach Jack stuff. And you can edit, you can clone, you can delete, right? You can view it on your calendar because that's where it is, or you can view it on my plan because I sent it to my plans and see it on my calendar, right? So depending on where you send it, depending on what it is, that's how it shows up here. So that's it. That's Coach Jack Plans. It's a long video. I don't know how long it was, but let's see. Thanks. Bye.